Can I ask you something? How many women do you know who have done the healing work, read the books, listened to the podcasts, gone to therapy, attended the workshops, learned about boundaries, worked on their mindset, started journaling, practiced self-care, and yet they're still stressed about money, still checking their bank account before making simple decisions, still wondering how they're going to create more freedom in their lives, still feeling trapped in routines they've emotionally outgrown, still waking up every Monday feeling like they're living a life that no longer fits who they have become. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Healing doesn't automatically create freedom. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because I see so many incredible women doing deep emotional work, but never building the financial foundation that allows them to actually live differently. And if that's you, I want you to know something. This isn't criticism, it's awareness. Because for years, I was exactly the same. For those who don't know me, I'm Anastasia. My passion is helping women move from survival mode into self-led living, not just emotionally, not just spiritually, but practically. Because true freedom isn't simply feeling better, it's having choices. Choices about your time, choices about your work, choices about where you live, choices about who you spend your days with, choices about how you respond when life throws challenges your way. Because when you have options, you stop living from fear. And when you stop living from fear, everything changes. Today I want to explain why so many healed women remain financially stuck and what finally helped me understand the missing piece. But before we go deeper, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like you've done so much inner work, but your external reality hasn't fully caught up yet? Type yes if that resonates. Because I have a feeling many women watching this understand exactly what I'm talking about. You know you're not the same woman you were 5 years ago. You've grown. You've healed. You've evolved. But financially, professionally, or practically, you still feel like you're standing in the same place. And that can be incredibly frustrating because nobody talks about that part. People celebrate healing. People celebrate breakthroughs. People celebrate transformation. But very few people talk about what comes next. What happens after the breakthrough? What happens after the awareness? What happens after you have identified the limited beliefs? What happens after you have learned to regulate your emotions? What happens after you've healed the wounds? Because life doesn't stop there. In many ways, that's where the real work begins. One of the biggest misconceptions in the personal development space is this. People assume healing automatically creates freedom. It doesn't. Healing helps you stop bleeding. Freedom helps you build. Those are two different things. Healing helps you recover. Freedom helps you create. Healing helps you survive. Freedom helps you thrive. And both matter. But they are not the same thing. You can heal your nervous system and still have no income strategy. You can heal your self-worth and still depend on a job you hate. You can overcome limiting beliefs and still not know how to create additional income. You can learn to love yourself deeply and still feel trapped financially. And that's where many women get stuck, because nobody teaches implementation. Nobody teaches what comes after awareness. Awareness is powerful, but awareness alone doesn't pay the bills. Awareness alone doesn't create options. Awareness alone doesn't buy freedom. Awareness alone doesn't allow you to redesign your life. For years, I genuinely believed that if I kept working on myself, everything else would eventually fall into place. And to be fair, some things did. My confidence improved. My mindset improved. My relationships improved. My self-respect improved. I stopped accepting less than I deserved. I learned how to set boundaries. I learned how to trust myself. I learned how to say no. I learned how to protect my energy. All beautiful things. All necessary things. But financially, nothing changed. And that confused me because I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to do. I was learning, growing, reflecting, developing. Yet my bank account looked exactly the same. My circumstances looked exactly the same. My options looked exactly the same. Can anyone relate to this? Drop a yes if you've ever experienced that disconnect between inner growth and external results. Because eventually I realized something. I was consuming information without building anything. Learning without implementing. Growing without creating income-producing skills. Reading without taking action. And there's a huge difference. Think about it this way. You can read 50 books about fitness, but if you never exercise, nothing changes. You can watch endless cooking videos, but if you never step into the kitchen, nothing changes. You can learn everything about confidence, but if you never put yourself into situations that require confidence, nothing changes. The same applies to freedom. At some point, information has to become implementation. Knowledge has to become action. Awareness has to become results. Otherwise, we stay trapped in a cycle of endless learning. And honestly, I think many women become addicted to learning, not because they're lazy, not because they're incapable, but because learning feels productive. It feels safe. It feels comfortable. It feels like progress. But sometimes learning becomes a hiding place. Sometimes we consume more information because taking action feels scary. And I understand that. I lived there myself. For a long time, I kept searching for the next book, the next course, the next breakthrough, the next answer, thinking that one day I would finally feel ready. But readiness is a moving target. The more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn. And eventually, I realized something powerful. I didn't need another breakthrough. I needed a blueprint. I didn't need another motivational quote. I needed a roadmap. I didn't need more inspiration. I needed implementation. And that's a very different conversation. Let me ask you about something. What's harder for you right now? A, believing in yourself. Or B, knowing exactly what to do next. Drop A or B in the comments. Because I think many women assume confidence is the problem. But often confidence isn't the issue at all. Clarity is, direction is, a clear path is. Because when you know what to do, confidence grows through action, not before action, through action. I've noticed 4 major reasons women stay stuck. And I want to walk through them because you may recognize yourself in one of these. Number one, information addiction. This is incredibly common. People consume content every single day. Videos, podcasts, courses, books, posts, webinars, training, more information, but they never execute. And execution is where results live. Number two, lack of guidance. People buy random courses that don't connect together. One teaches mindset, another teaches social media, another teaches sales, another teaches business. And suddenly they're trying to piece together 10 different systems that were never designed to work together. The result, confusion, overwhelm, inaction. Number three, no accountability. Nobody checks where they actually follow through. Nobody notices when they disappear. Nobody helps them get back on track. Nobody challenges them when they're making excuses. And accountability matters more than most people realize, because motivation comes and goes, but accountability keeps you moving. Number four, no income strategy. Lots of dreams, lots of potential, lots of motivation, but no roadmap, no clear plan for creating income, no clear strategy for building freedom, no clear process for turning effort into results. And that's exactly why so many women stay in survival mode longer than they need to. Not because they're broken, not because they're incapable, not because they need more healing, but because they lack a system. And that word changed everything for me. System. Because success is rarely about working harder. It's usually about following a better process. And once I understood that, everything started to look different. Because once I understood that success wasn't about more information, it forced me to ask a very uncomfortable question. If healing wasn't the thing creating freedom, then what was missing? And the answer surprised me. The missing piece wasn't motivation. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't self-worth. It wasn't another breakthrough. It was a system. A system that connected learning to implementation, knowledge to action, effort to outcomes. And honestly, that realization changed everything. Because up until that point, I thought successful people simply knew something I didn't know. I thought they had more confidence, more discipline, more courage, more certainty. But the more successful people I studied, the more I noticed something interesting. Most of them weren't operating from certainty. They were operating from systems. They didn't wake up every day asking, "What should I do?" The system already told them. They didn't rely on motivation. The system created consistency. They didn't rely on inspiration. The system created momentum. And suddenly I realized I had spent years trying to become the kind of woman who could create freedom without learning the actual process that creates freedom. That's a very different thing, because freedom isn't an emotion. Freedom is structure. Think about that for a moment. Freedom is a structure. It's the ability to generate options. It's the ability to make decisions from choice rather than necessity. It's the ability to respond instead of react. And none of this happens by accident. It happens through design. And that became my turning point. The moment I stopped asking, how do I feel more ready, and started asking, what system do I need to follow, everything changed. Because here's what I realized. Most women are trying to create freedom from survival mode. And survival mode is exhausting. When you're in survival mode, every decision feels heavy. Every expense feels stressful. Every setback feels personal. Every unexpected bill feels threatening. Every Monday feels like another obligation. You spend so much energy managing the present that you have no capacity to build the future. Can anyone relate to that? Feeling like you're constantly maintaining life instead of creating life? Because that's exactly where I was. And once I recognized it, I began noticing 4 distinct stages women move through. 4 stages from survival to self-led living. Let me walk you through them. Stage 1, survival. This is where many women spend years, sometimes decades. You're working hard, you're doing your best, you're responsible, you're capable, but you're constantly reacting. Money comes in, money comes out. You solve a problem, another appears. You get through the week, then start again. There is very little space, very little flexibility, very little freedom. You survive, but you don't feel truly free. Stage 2, awareness. This is where healing often begins. You start questioning things. You start noticing patterns. You begin understanding yourself differently. You learn about boundaries, mindset, self-worth, trauma, nervous system regulation. You become more conscious. And this stage is beautiful. It's necessary. But many women stay here for too long because awareness feels like progress. And it is progress. But awareness alone isn't transformation. It's preparation. Awareness prepares you for change. It doesn't create change by itself. Stage 3, implementation. This is where everything starts shifting because now you're applying what you've learned. You're building skills, creating assets, developing income streams, taking action, making mistakes, learning from experience, adjusting, refining, growing, not because you're perfectly ready, but because you are moving, and the movement creates momentum. This is where confidence starts appearing. Not before action, after action. And finally, stage 4, self-led freedom. This is where your choices expand. This is where you stop feeling trapped. This is where life begins reflecting your growth. This is where you have options, not because life becomes perfect, but because you're no longer dependent on the outcome. One job, one income source, one opportunity, one person, one circumstance. You have flexibility, and flexibility creates freedom. Now, here's the important part. Most women never move from stage 2 to stage 3. Not because they're incapable, but because they don't know how. Nobody showed them. Nobody gave them a roadmap. Nobody gave them a system. And that's where I got stuck for years. I knew how to heal. I didn't know how to build. I knew how to process emotions. I didn't know how to create income. I knew how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to create leverage. I knew how to improve my mindset. I didn't know how to turn knowledge into freedom. And eventually, that became impossible to ignore. Because I started asking myself a difficult question. If I truly believed I deserved freedom, why wasn't I building it? That question hit hard because I realized something. I was waiting for freedom to arrive instead of creating it. And maybe someone listening needs to hear that today. Freedom isn't found. Freedom is built, one skill at a time, one decision at a time, one action at a time, one system at a time. And once I understood that, I stopped looking for magic answers. I started looking for practical solutions, which eventually led me to something that completely changed my perspective. Not because it promised overnight success, not because it solved a fantasy, but because it solved the exact problem I'd been facing: the gap between awareness and implementation, the gap between healing and building, the gap between growth and freedom. And that's what I want to talk about next. Because when I discovered a system that combined education, guidance, accountability, and a clear income roadmap, I finally understood why so many women stay stuck. More importantly, how they can move forward. So what was the system that changed everything for me? It was discovering something that finally connected all the pieces. Not just education, not just motivation, not just mentorship, but a complete pathway. A system designed to help someone move from learning to implementation, from information to income, from surviving to creating options. And that's when I found the combination of SMGB Academy and BTC mentorship. Now, before I continue, I want to be very clear about something. This wasn't a magical solution. It wasn't a lottery ticket. It wasn't passive income overnight. And it definitely wasn't a shortcut. What it gave me was something much more valuable, a roadmap. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to figure out everything alone. I had structure, I had guidance, I had accountability, and most importantly, I had a process. And if you've been listening closely, you will realize that's exactly what we've been talking about throughout this live. Not healing versus business, not personal growth versus income, not mindset versus strategy. It's about integration. It's about combining inner growth and practical action, because both matter. Healing helps you believe you're capable. Action helps you create results. Healing helps you stop self-sabotaging. Implementation helps you move forward. Healing helps you become ready. Systems help you build. And that's why this approach felt different. Because it addressed the gap I'd been struggling with for years. The gap between knowing and doing. Now I know what some people may be thinking, because I ask myself the exact same questions. The first one is, what if I don't have enough time? And honestly, that's a valid concern. Most women already have full lives. Work, family, responsibilities, commitments. The last thing you need is another overwhelming obligation. But here's what I discovered. The issue usually isn't time, it's direction. Because when you're unclear about what to do, everything takes longer. You spend hours researching, hours second-guessing, hours consuming content, hours trying to figure out the next step. A roadmap often saves more time than it requires. And that's what changed for me. Instead of constantly asking, what should I do next? I simply followed the process. The second concern people often have is, what if I don't have the money? And again, I completely understand that. Because when you're in survival mode, Every investment feels risky, but eventually I had to ask myself something. What was the cost of staying exactly where I was? What was the cost of another year of uncertainty, another year of waiting, another year of consuming information without implementation? Because sometimes the bigger risk isn't moving forward. Sometimes the bigger risk is standing still. The third concern is probably the biggest one. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of getting it wrong. Fear of wasting time. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of starting and not succeeding. And if that's where you are, I want you to hear this. Most people don't fail because they start. They fail because they never begin. Or they quit before momentum has time to build. Every skill feels uncomfortable at the beginning. Every transformation feels uncertain at the beginning. Every successful person was once a beginner. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. The goal is to stop allowing fear to make your decisions, because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's movement despite fear. And that's a lesson I had to learn personally. Now, here's something important. This system works for a specific reason, very specific reason. Not because it's perfect, not because it's magical, because it combines the two things most women are missing: the skill and the support. And that's where everything started to click for me. So what changed everything for me? I stopped looking for another motivational quote and started looking for a complete system, a place where I could learn a skill, follow a roadmap, and actually implement. And that's what I want to show you today. The first part is called SMGB Academy. Think of this as the skill side. This is where you learn digital marketing, content creation, multiple income streams, branding, online business foundations. There are over 55 modules, hundreds of lessons, done for you resources, step-by-step guidance. The reason I love it is because it's beginner friendly. You don't need previous experience. You don't need a business degree. You simply follow the roadmap. Now, here's the part most people are missing. Knowledge alone isn't enough. That's where BTC mentorship comes in. BTC is the support side, weekly mentorship, community, accountability, implementation support, real guidance from people who have already walked the path. Because knowing how is important, but actually doing it is where results happen. SMGB teaches you how. BTC helps you to do it. If you have ever bought a course and never finished it, drop a yes in the comments. Let me break down the numbers. Normally, SMGB Academy is £390. BTC Mentorship is £220. Combined value is £610. But right now, you can access both for £390. That's a £220 saving. And honestly, the biggest value isn't even the discount. It's having the skill and the support together. Maybe you're thinking, I don't have time. Most people aren't lacking time. They're lacking direction. A clear roadmap saves time. Or maybe, I don't know enough. Perfect. This was built for beginners. Or perhaps, what if I fail? The bigger question is, what happens if nothing changes? And if you're thinking, I've tried courses before, that's exactly why BTC exists. Because accountability changes everything. Today, I wanted to add something special. The first 2 women who join through my link today will receive my exclusive bonus guide from survival to Self-Led Income, completely free. This guide walks you through identity shifts, building self-led confidence, moving beyond survival mode, creating financial independence from a place of alignment. It's designed specifically for women who know they're ready for more. Here's what I don't want. I don't want you living today inspired and doing nothing. Because inspiration without action changes nothing. You already know enough. You already have potential. The question is, are you finally ready to implement? If you're ready, go to lightwithinjourney.com, choose the Digital Income System bundle, get access to SMGB Academy, BTC mentorship, community, mentorship, accountability, multiple income stream training, and remember, the first 2 women who join today receive my bonus guide, From Survival to Self-Led Income, for free. Drop the word freedom in the comments if you'd like more information, or message me freedom and I'll send you the details. Because healing is powerful, but healing plus freedom, that's where life truly changes. Thank you.